Hey, Hound Dogs, I'm David Hankins.
I'm Paul Hankins.
And you're on the air with Power Squared. It's just the two of us this week, and we're going to talk about the summer that's almost over. It's officially over like the 20 or 21st of September, but for all intents and purposes, summer's over.
Yeah.
So we thought we'd look back at the things that some of the things we were talking about doing this summer, like going to certain movies, and some of the events we went to, like Comic-Con and things like that. So we're just gonna have a kind of review of the summer, and if you did something during the summer, leave a comment.
Right.
Okay. So one of the things we did a whole show about summer movies, things that we're thinking about looking at, watching. So I thought we could talk about the movies that we did see, starting with Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
What'd you think?
I remember liking it.
Yeah.
Like, as far as animation goes, or theatrical animation, it really raised the bar with what you could do with CG, like even further than Into the Spider-Verse. Of course, the story was, they tried to have a conclusion at the end, but at the same time, it was also like part one.
Yeah.
I knew going in it was a part one, but I guess apparently a lot of people didn't, even though the first trailer said it was a part one.
Okay, yeah.
I guess if they dropped part one, it's not a part one, right? I remember the sound mixing was off in a couple places.
Right. Haven't they like gone back and changed parts of it or something?
Yeah, so in the theater, there were numerous versions running around. I heard some people say like 9 different versions, but I'm not sure about that. I knew there were at least 2. Because at first it was just to fix the sound mixing, but then they also actually changed the look of certain scenes and even changed entire bits of dialogue, including removing dialogue.
Wow.
And from my understanding, the home video version is the updated version, so they basically already pulled a George Lucas.
Yeah, I was thinking that, yeah.
Fixing the sound mixing would have been one thing that would have been understandable, but changing a whole bunch of stuff on top of that, just without also offering the original, is...
Maybe that'll be part of some package when they're done with 1, 2, and 3.
Maybe.
You never know. That's too bad.
As in Into Across and Beyond.
Yeah.
Not a potential part 3.
No, I wasn't thinking. I was thinking about the first movie with the next 2 as a package. I don't know. I'm sure somebody at Sony's thinking that through as we're talking. So and we liked that movie.
Yeah.
That was good. Thumbs up. And it was reviewed, of course, on Trophy Unlocked.
Pretty much everything we talked about was reviewed on Trophy Unlocked.
Yeah, let's just pass that on. Transformers: Rise of the Beasts.
Yeah.
We went to early access of that.
Yeah.
So what'd you think?
I know we liked it. Something I can agree on about that movie is that it's maybe like as a movie, as like just a regular movie, it's probably like a 6 out of 10. But as a Transformers movie, it's like an 8 out of 10.
Right. Yeah. And I think it was good for what it was about.
Yeah.
And you kind of wonder that sometimes movies like that don't catch on, because I think a lot of people have been kind of burned by some of the other Transformers movies.
Yeah, it was actually the lowest performing Transformers movie.
Yeah, even though it was one of the better ones. It was just because I think it's had some bad predecessors.
Yeah, people got burned on the Michael Bay stuff. So even though the last 2, including Bumblebee, weren't Michael Bay, people still associated with Michael Bay.
Well, he's an executive producer or something like that.
Yeah, but still. And I remember Pete Davidson was actually better than we thought he was going to be.
I was worried about Pete Davidson.
Yeah.
In a Transformers movie.
Everywhere.
Yes, it was. He was like in every commercial for a while.
Yeah, and he has his own show.
Of course.
Butt Kiss.
Yeah, right.
Not an ad, just saw ads for it.
We haven't seen it, so
we
can't recommend it or not. So that was good. And sometimes I think we would see movies that I thought would be bigger than they are, and I think it's because sometimes people are kind of burnt out on the franchise, maybe, or something, or the previous ones. So you kind of lose. It's a familiar title, so people, you think that's why they make it. Because I think people will go see it, but they're like, "Oh, I've seen like 5 of these."
Well, the same thing happened with a similar thing happened with. Excuse me. That last Terminator.
Mm-hmm.
What was it called?
I forgot. But it was. We liked it though.
Yeah, I remember. I know we liked it when we saw it.
Right.
But people got burned out. People got repeatedly burned out with Terminator, constantly retconning after 2 had an uplifting ending.
Right.
So every Terminator movie after that kind of undoes the happy ending.
Right.
For one reason or another, and so.
One of them's not even canon, right?
Yeah. I forgot how people felt about Terminator 3. I haven't seen that.
Oh yeah.
I don't think I even saw Salvation either. Yeah, Dark Fate was the new one. But people kept getting burned out on bad Terminator movies, including, I guess, Salvation and Genesis. So people might have been more willing to see Dark Fate if they didn't have 2 other bad Terminator movies.
Was that the one where Arnold was like, if he got into like doing sconces or something, or some interior design thing?
It was funny.
Yeah, that was a good bit. Okay, so one movie that we went to see that was hailed as the best superhero movie ever was not The Flash.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Yeah, it was really long. I mean, yeah.
It was too long. Most of it is Ezra Miller yelling at himself.
Mm-hmm.
Themself, sorry.
Right, yeah. Oh, excuse me, yes, themself.
Force of habit.
Yeah.
The only good parts were Michael Keaton and Supergirl.
Yeah, I guess it was Supergirl.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked her a lot, and I liked Michael Keaton in it. But yeah, the problem was they weren't the stars of the show. It was, Ezra Miller.
Yeah. The CG was awful.
Yeah, it wasn't as good as it could have been.
Yeah. Looked like underdone.
I mean, we saw the little bit of the Flash in that really long Justice League movie.
Yeah, which really long Justice League.
Well, the one that we saw at home because it was during the pandemic.
Yeah.
It was a 4-hour version.
Yeah, the Snyder cut.
Yeah, and that part of when he was in the Flash, that looked good, and none of that was in this movie, of course.
Right.
And so they kind of set up a false. If you watch that, I kind of expected that scene. Like, I guess Marvel films have trained me to think that what they show you for the next movie is in the next movie, and that Flash bit wasn't at all.
Yeah.
And that was that was before, of course, all this trouble, and that was like 3 or 4 years ago too. Now.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just wasn't as good as the hype was, and it was disappointing overall.
Yeah. It's just.
Maybe
we would tell people to watch Flashpoint Paradox instead,
right?
Because that did the Flashpoint arc better.
Okay. And how would people find that? That's an animated thing.
Yeah.
And
you can probably find a Blu-ray somewhere or just stream it on Max.
Right. Okay.
And I will say the biggest disappointment of The Flash is that it's a Flash movie that adapts Flashpoint, but Reverse Flash is not the villain.
Okay. The next movie we saw was Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
Dead Reckoning Part 1. Where is this camera? I don't even on the camera here. There we go. Part 1. And that was pretty good.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I liked it. I will admit there was a point where I was fighting sleep, but I think it was more because I was tired.
Yeah, I've had that in movies.
Yeah.
You don't mean to get tired.
Yeah. I was jolted awake by the final action sequence.
Yeah.
Which was really good.
Right.
Although I thought that I think one action sequence at the end was reminiscent of Uncharted,
Okay.
like the beginning of Uncharted 2,
All right.
and another part related to it was kind of like another Uncharted game.
Okay.
I wouldn't be surprised if they took some influence from there.
It's
I
very
mean, I
likely.
don't blame them. They were really good set pieces.
Right. And of course, the big stunt was the jumping off the cliff on a motorcycle.
Yes.
That was kind of like, it was like 2 hours or something into it. It was not a short movie.
Yeah.
And that was, yeah, I think they did a pretty good job of it's a little everybody can do everything kind of deal.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's a master of everything, but it's good.
I think I read the themes of Dead Reckoning Part 1 are sort of similar to the themes of Metal Gear Solid 2.
Okay.
Which is like, I guess spoilers for Metal Gear Solid 2, like a AI controlling information. In the case of Metal Gear Solid 2, it was an AI that was trying to create context.
Okay.
And so anyway, it's not a bad thing to be compared to Metal Gear Solid 2.
No, it's probably a compliment.
Yeah.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, Mutant Mayhem specifically.
And
I liked that one more than I expected.
Mhm.
I guess I wasn't sure what to think at first because of Seth Rogen.
Right.
And it turned out to I was hopeful for it because of the trailer, like the animation and how they captured the teen part of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And I thought it was pretty good. Although you could tell what jokes were Seth Rogen.
Yeah, he's got
Those kind of brought it down.
Yeah, he remade The Shadow
Yeah.
at Sony, and that was actually kind of better than I think a lot of people gave it credit for. It wasn't great, but it was better. So I was sort of like apprehensive. Yeah, his humor is sometimes not really what I would think is funny.
There's a reason some people say just associate him with Dude Weed LMAO.
Yeah. But supposedly, according to what I've read, is he was the first person they thought of when they were going to make an animated.
I guess he was a big fan.
Yeah, well, just because you're a big fan doesn't mean you're going to be good at it.
No.
But in this case, it was pretty good. There was some humor that wasn't, and some relationships that were kind of like, okay, I don't really
Yeah.
want to see, but otherwise it was pretty good.
Definitely. By the end, it definitely sets up a very different take on the world of TMNT.
Right.
I don't want to really spoil anything. And I guess they're gonna make a series based off of it.
Okay, and for streaming, I assume.
Yeah,
Or,
at least.
Okay. I mean, when you say series, you don't mean series of movies. You mean like
Yeah, like an animated series.
Okay. So make sure.
Right.
Okay, and we saw these kind of a little later than we wanted to, but there was
Comic-Con had a ripple effect on everything.
yes, Barbenheimer.
Yeah.
So the first one we saw was Barbie,
Yes.
and
Now, some people would say that's like eating dessert first, but it was okay.
yeah, it's one of those you kind of felt you had to see it because like it made $1 billion.
Yeah. Come on, Barbenheimer.
Yeah, but just the fact that the Barbie movie was so popular made you think, well, I got to see why it's so popular, and I was like, oh, why is this so popular?
Yeah.
Margot Robbie looks like Barbie, stereotype Barbie, is that what they called her?
Yeah, stereotypical Barbie.
And she, looked the part, but the movie kind of, I don't know, it seemed to kind of lose its way a little bit.
I think the best way to describe it without getting too deep into an otherwise unavoidable discussion
Yeah,
is kind of fumbles its own message.
yeah, a little bit. And it just sort of, yeah, it was sort of unfulfilling in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we're just not the audience.
Not the
for
target
it.
audience, yeah. Maybe.
But
I never played with the Barbie doll, so I know.
I will say I thought Ryan Gosling was good as Ken.
Right. I don't think he was as.
He was fine.
Yeah, he was, but he wasn't like she was on the mark.
Yeah.
He wasn't quite on the mark to me.
No.
But yeah, yeah, and I assume as Jen's writing, some of it is nostalgia.
Yeah.
And then we saw Oppenheimer, which we were trying to see it on a 70.
Yeah, there's a whole story there.
Yeah.
So the big thing for Oppenheimer is
we were going to try to see it on a 70 millimeter
IMAX.
Which is
supposed to be the way to see it.
That's how he intended it to be seen, and we went to the IMAX theater in Hollywood, the TCL Chinese theater.
Big mistake.
Yeah, because even though they had taken up a bunch of the floor to have this projection room set up, it didn't work, apparently. And so we ended up seeing it in 35 millimeter IMAX, which I guess is good they had that as a backup. But I was really curious because it's supposed to be like 7 miles of film or some huge. That's the reason I went to see it. It was supposed to be this mega huge amount of film they had to use to project it, and we didn't get to see it that way, which is it was. I really liked the movie. I'm a little more into the historical kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I like 1917, and I'm a bigger fan of Dunkirk than other people were. But I think it was really well done. I think it was, had the sort of a wah to it.
Yeah. It was. I wasn't sure how much I would like it, but I ended up really liking it.
Yeah, and the 3 hours didn't seem to. It wasn't those movies. I've been in movies where it's 3 hours long. And you're like, okay,
I did check my watch a handful of times, but that was more at a time when I could actually start drinking the soda.
Yeah, and I think that's also kind of a habit people get into because you're kind of everything. You're used to it being 22 minutes long, so after that you're kind of like, what? Oh, it's still going.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think that was to me so far the best film I've seen as far as I would think the Academy Award's going to go.
Yeah.
And I think the acting was good, and so I really thought it was a really well-made film, and to me that was sort of the highlight of the summer films that we've seen for me.
For Oppenheimer, there's a question I had seen the question of is it really worth seeing in IMAX because most of it is people standing in a room talking to each other. I would say the main reason you'd want to see it in IMAX is because of the recreation of the test in New Mexico.
Right.
Which they managed to pull off with practical effects.
Apparently, and it's a huge. I mean, that's kind of the reason why you wanted to see it in 70 millimeter.
No, they didn't. Christopher Nolan did not set off an actual nuclear
bomb. Anything for the.
It seems like he is the kind of guy who would do that, but he didn't do it.
It's hard to get those on the black market. Anyway, so that was our film so far this year, and again, all these are reviewed at
trophyunlocked.blogspot.com.
All right. So one of the things we did before summer is we did a whole show of you talking about Metallica.
Yeah, it's honestly just an excuse for me to talk about Metallica for like 40 minutes.
And this summer, we actually saw Metallica.
Yes.
It was they were doing they were hitting a city and doing two shows in totally different sets, different opening acts, and it was kind of a really interesting idea.
Yeah, the M72.
Right, and there's probably they're a band that could pull that off. They have enough stuff that people know that at least their fans would know, and their fans. There's a lot of, and this was the largest, I think, event they've had at SoFi. So, I mean, a lot of people went to see them twice. And it was fairly reasonably priced. I mean, we sat, above the roof, but...
Yeah, we're in the 500s at the very back.
At row 22.
Really cheap nosebleeds.
Yeah, well, we were trying to afford 4 tickets. And my beef about it was they put the tickets on sale during the Christmas holiday season.
Yeah, that was... Poor timing.
So you're kind of like, I could either buy something for Christmas or buy this ticket 8 months in advance.
But consider, Metallica's my favorite band.
Yeah, which is why we went. And the experience was not great.
Yeah. Metallica themselves were really good, and they put on a really good show.
Right.
And the sets on both nights were really good. The problem was more the stadium.
And the sound.
Yeah, because SoFi is not made for music. It is made for sports.
It's made for money, I heard someone say. And we spent
Anyway,
a lot
it was designed more around amplifying the audience noise for sports as opposed to having actual good acoustics for music.
And the sound was better the second night, but it wasn't great.
Yeah.
And there was whole opening acts that I don't think we understood what they were doing.
Yeah, so the first night, I would have liked to hear Mammoth WVH, Wolfgang Van Halen.
Yeah.
But couldn't really hear what he was saying or playing, which was kind of disappointing.
Right.
Pantera was like a tunnel.
Yeah.
Or like a ball of noise, as I saw someone put it. I like Pantera.
Wasn't this kind of a Pantera, putting on Pantera
Yeah.
group? Yeah.
People who could actually hear Pantera, I saw some people complain that Zakk Wylde just can't not do his pinch harmonics. And I guess he apparently, I couldn't tell, but apparently he kept missing like Dimebag solos or something.
Oh, okay.
Or missing the timing.
Oh.
I thought Charlie Benante from Anthrax was okay as the drummer. But anyway, I could not hear Pantera, really. I could maybe make out Walk, but barely. And I could make out, like, the first part of Cowboys from Hell.
Right.
Otherwise, nothing really. The second night, Ice Nine Kills. I couldn't really form a good opinion on them because
I would have liked to have heard them because they looked like they were putting on I think I read somewhere that it was better if they were in a smaller auditorium, but they were like trying to put on a show.
Yeah.
And it just kind of couldn't get into it.
Maybe I'll check them out some other way.
Right.
Like an album or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was super bored during Five Finger Death Punch.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. I have two of their albums. I liked one of them. The only part I could really make out was their cover of Bad Company, because that's like their best song is a cover.
Yeah.
But I was just super bored during their set. I don't know why. Someone else I talked to who was there was also super bored.
Well, then you're not alone.
Yeah, but Metallica was definitely the best part because it's Metallica.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the highlight.
We're hoping that the recording of the concert, which we've already purchased, is going to be better sound quality, that we can actually hear what we didn't hear live. And it's an expensive thing to go to SoFi.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'd recommend cross your fingers.
Yeah.
I'd recommend what we did is we parked away from the event. I've never heard anybody say they had a great time going to SoFi.
No.
So far. I mean, I'm sure the concerts you go because you want to see somebody play, but no one's ever said, yeah, it was great.
I would just not recommend going to SoFi for a concert.
Right.
Now, Trevor and I are going to see Baby Metal and Death Clock at the YouTube Theater, which is in SoFi, but that's indoor, so the acoustics should be a lot better.
Yeah.
I've been warned Baby Metal is loud.
So wear
like,
earplugs.
yeah.
Okay.
Always wear earplugs.
Speaking of expensive events, we went to Comic-Con again this year.
Yes.
4 days in San Diego.
Yeah.
And I think five. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Phew. Wednesday through Sunday.
Yeah.
So, what'd you think of Comic-Con?
It was interesting because there was a dual strikes going on.
Yes. There was not a lot of people pushing movies or television shows.
Yeah, and if union members did show up, they could only talk about it in their work in general, not any specific. Excuse me, not any specific work unless they were allowed to or unless they were comfortable with it.
Right.
So, like for example, at the cartoon voices panel, a couple of them couldn't really talk about most of the things they were in because it was union work or struck work.
Right.
But at least one of them was able to rattle off a bunch of anime roles they were in. She was like, "That's okay, right?"
You could talk about things you had done. You just couldn't talk about something you were in currently or something like that. I wasn't sure what the rules were. And there was some really good panels, and we, I think, had a pretty good time.
Yeah.
I did fall and hurt. I'm still hurt from falling, but I was misstepped.
Yeah.
But
slipped on a curb.
Yeah, and managed to walk it was like the beginning of Sunday morning. That was fun. But
I did make 2 videos related to Comic-Con.
Which
one of them was
big on the channel.
Yeah. One of them was kind of our haul that was kind of influenced by or inspired by. I saw a video where like ProZD came back from Japan, and he decided it would be fun to show off the stuff he got.
Right.
So I thought it would be fun to show off some of the stuff we got. That also ended up. At first, it was intended to be maybe put into the other video, but it ended up being something we put up while I was working on the other video. Right. And the reason the other video took longer was because I was fighting. I was editing it on a 10-year-old laptop.
Yes, we have old computers.
Yeah. So I was kind of fighting it.
But one of the things that came out of that, out of Comic-Con, in a good way, and I'm trying to. Your videos have been very well received. Is that we managed to have David Peterson on the show.
Yes.
Who's the creator of Mouse Guard, and I'll give Trevor credit for going and asking him to be on the show.
Yeah.
And he agreed, which is always the surprising part, I think.
Yeah, we were actually kind of surprised how easy it was.
Yeah, and it proves sometimes if you just ask people, they'll do things.
Yeah, we had Stephen E. Gordon on. We asked, like, "You want to be on?" He's like, "Okay."
Yeah. And it was very interesting. It was 2 hours. I kind of had to sort of like, okay, we got to rein it in here. Yeah, because it's going on. But it was a very good interview. He seemed to enjoy himself. And I thought that was one of the better shows we've had this summer.
Yeah.
On the air with Power Squared. I also want to mention that while we were gone at Comic-Con and while we were gone at Metallica, the show continued without us. And I want to thank Julia and Jen and Rachel.
Yes.
They did a girls' art takeover, and then when we
girls' night.
Yeah, and then when we went to Metallica, Jen and Julia did another show, and so those those are sometimes my favorite shows. We're not on them, and I can watch them. So I would recommend that people check those out, and thank them again for keeping the show alive without us being here.
Yeah.
We've also this year started doing a comic book club.
Yeah.
And this summer we did two. We had two shows. One of them was The Way of the House Husband, which I think was your suggestion.
Yes.
Which is a kind of a nice sort of kind of a humorous slice of life.
Yeah.
With a former
Yakuza.
Yeah, who's playing a house husband. I love the fact he wears a little apron everywhere he goes.
Yeah.
That's really funny. And some of the situations, it's a very cute concept.
Yeah.
And it's like volume 10 now or something.
Yeah.
So we read volume 1.
Still funny.
And then the other one was my suggestion, which was 8 pages, and I'm not going to remember the guy's name.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, it's right over here.
Yeah. Still there.
Yeah.
Craig Stein.
Yeah. And it's Master Race, which is an 8-page comic that supposedly is very influential, and I thought we should all read it, and it's available for free, is one of the nice things. I did buy the book because I thought some of the stories in there are really good.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much he had to do with writing the stories, but they're it's kind of they can do a lot in 8 pages.
Yeah.
'Cause a lot of these are very short, and so it was very. That was kind of I wanted everybody to kind of at least be exposed to, because you had seen a video where a guy was talking about how important that was.
Yeah.
And so let's
Matt with 4 T's.
Right.
That's the name of the channel.
And I tried to figure out who we could get him on the show, but I couldn't figure out how to actually contact him. But anyway, so Master Race. It sounds like it's going to be pro-Nazi or something, and it's not. So
yeah,
I want everybody to feel
I will say looking at something like Master Race is also interesting because it's sometimes good to look at short form work, because that's the kind of format where like if it's a short film, like every second or minute matters, or with a comic,
right.
Every page matters,
every panel matters.
Yeah, so it gets it down to the core as quickly as possible and tries to do it. It's interesting to see what they do with such a limited
right, and sometimes they can do a lot with 8 pages. So that would transition us into our comic book. We've this year have released 2 volumes of 2 issues of Power Squared. Sorry, well, one of which is it's Mocha and Raven Part 2.
Yes,
and then I was in June 14th, and then we just this past week released Part 3, which is issue 18.
Yes.
So of course, I think it was an interesting little story arc.
Yeah.
Kind of brought back, if you've read along from the beginning, we introduced a character named Billy O'Shea, and then I'm not sure we came up with the name Billy O'Shea, but we introduced him in issue 1, and we brought him back in issue 16.
Yes.
And with him his companion is a
Yadagarasu.
Thank you.
I have to learn this.
Yeah, I was going to say it, but it's easier if you say it. Who's named Raven, because they basically are ravens with 3 talons and
legged.
3-legged. Yeah, sorry. Well, they have 3 talons, then, don't
they? On each leg, yeah.
Yeah. So they come back, and Mocha and Raven have a not so pleasant history, and they have to kind of overcome a lot of stuff. But I think it was a good story arc.
Yeah.
So those are available, of course, at PowerSquareComicBook.com at the campus store.
Yes.
So we hope you'll check that out.
You can find where it's available there.
Right. Everything's available through there.
Yeah.
All right. So that's kind of been our summer.
Yes.
If you have any comments you want to make, was it word summer?
Yeah.
Love to hear from you.
All right. So, yeah, if you're watching us on YouTube later and you liked this, leave a like. Subscribe if you want to see more.
Please. And
leave a comment below about if you have any opinions about anything we talked about.
Right. All right. So until next time, I'm David Hankins.
I'm Paul Hankins.
And you've been on the air with Power Squared.